I don't know if there'll be a second Galaxy in 3 months.
That is a short notice. What has happened on Second Galaxy?
There's been no official announcement over there in Second Galaxy, but we talked to the devs, and they've said everything that they're going to say, but they've made absolutely clear that the game is not going to continue, that there will be no more development of the game, and that they would like nothing better than if we all just went away. So eventually, that is what is going to happen. And so that, like I said, there's no official announcement, but I talked to the guys that are in the Shanghai office, which is where all the development takes place.
Yeah.
And I talked to one of the managers there. And so this is not a friend of a friend told me, or I heard some rumor. And so anyway, what I've told my people is that we have to prepare for what it is that we're going to do, because at the end of the day, there is not going to be a second Galaxy forever, for sure. But I don't know if there'll be a second Galaxy in 3 months.
That is a short notice.
Well, like I said, they haven't even issued a notice, and I think that the reason that they're playing their cards this way, and here I'm going to be a little bit negative. At the very beginning of the game, what they did was a bunch of people that were unhappy with the way things are going. And again, I'm not sugarcoating the fact that the game had problems when it first came out. In particular, they rushed the game a lot, and there were a lot of issues. But a lot of people, particularly on the Genesis side, said, oh, this is just a Chinese wallet miner. Everybody should leave. Everybody should demand refunds. And the Eve Echoes beta had just come out. It was still going to be almost a year later before Eve Echoes was going to be available, but they started this campaign to get people to bail, and a bunch of people did, including Kerensky. And they all demanded refunds back, and they all got paid back on that. And so I would say that what we're seeing right now is a result of that they're a little bit concerned of getting some major backlash. So I think they're just encouraging everything to wind down quietly.
What's the reason for this?
I would piece together from conversation that I've had with them and a lot of speculation. And I'm going to say this too, and it'll probably offend people, and they'll be absolutely sure I'm wrong. Eve Echoes is going the same way. You guys are about 2 steps behind us, and y'all are going to get the same treatment. So look out for it. But this was, to shortcut the story, Zilong is a very small development company in China, but they're Western owned. They're owned by a big Dutch game company that turns out 10,000 cookie cutter fast food games a year, And they were mostly used as kind of a development sweatshop over there. But this was a big passion project for the Zilong guys, because they all played EVE Online, or these developers that had spearheaded this thing, they played EVE Online in the Serenity server. And they wanted to see, like a Chinese, EVE Online. When they came out with this, the business plan, and this is a fact, but they had built the second Galaxy engine. They were building the game, but they had built this engine to be resold. Much like the Unreal engine is resold, and a lot of games lay on top of that, but all the real hard work is done for you.
Yeah.
And they had intended to resell that. Speculation is entering the equation now, and I would say the speculation comes into they had intended to resell that probably to NetEase. What I think threw the big monkey wrench in the problem is, one, they never sold the engine, and number two, Pearl Abyss bought CCP, and Pearl Abyss and NetEase already had a relationship, so they worked out a licensing deal, and they said instead they were halfway down the road of, we think a mobile space game is a great idea, and with Zilong, and then they came into Pearl Abyss and CCP, and they said, well, let's just relicense all of that, and we'll build our own engine. Ultimately, that happened before the beta for Echoes, and then NetEase really quickly threw together the NetEase or the Eve Echoes beta, and from what I've heard, I never played it, but that first one in 2019, they said it was just unplayable, and those game was no stations, and everything was just horrible. But they tried to hurry up and get ahead of Zlong. And so that really, Zlong being a much, much smaller company, they're like, a tenth the size of NetEase. So that really put them financially in an awkward position. In 2020, Zlong kind of saw the writing on the wall and they're like, okay, we're not going to resell the engine. We need to try to make Second Galaxy successful. And they went back and did a major rewrite. And that's when they fixed all those problems that people complain about. And they did a major changes to everything across the board, trying to keep that project going and keep it alive. But it had really taken a death blow, with Eve Echoes and NetEase being such a bigger player, et cetera. So that, I mean, in terms of the game, and again, Eve Echoes, people are going to lose their mind. Second Galaxy is superior in every quantifiable way. And past the propaganda or the, we were in a war or all the other stuff that'll go on. I mean, I'm telling you, if you really looked at the game performance, the beauty of the balance in that game, the way that it all works hand in hand, all the problems that they fixed, Second Galaxy is just head and shoulders above it. Now, where people would, I would give one caveat to that, where people would have an argument is, I think, clearly EVE Online looks a lot better. And it has that look and feel that people like a lot better. And I think Eve Echoes, in a lot of ways, looks a lot better. And I think that's really where the distinction comes in. I would definitely give that credit to Eve Echoes.
Yeah, and as we talked about before, Eve Echoes is more of an MMO. You do all the middle stuff in Eve Echoes. Mm-hmm. And Second Galaxy is more like you do all the fun stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about Eve Echoes, and I mean, I made a video a long time ago, like Eve Echoes is dying, just because, there was a lot of fun videos about Eve Online is dying pretty much all through 15 years. So it's like, it's a joke. But I mean, the way the game has been going, and the fact that they don't listen to us players, and they don't brief the content creators with stuff that they do, and all this event that they do is very haphazardly done. I mean, I feel like they need to step it up, unless it's going to, I mean, the game does not do very well, like money wise for the company. So they push all this pay to play stuff, all these boxes that we have, just to make enough money so that it's not being cancelled. It kind of feels that way. But I mean, how close would Eve Echoes be? I mean, what major thing made Second Galaxy be closed?
I would say that we're both dealing with the exact same situation, and you kind of hit the bullseye there when you were talking about the money, because we had a big meeting yesterday where we invited, whether you were in our alliance or enemies or whatever, and we had this big meeting of all non-Chinese players. And one of the things that we talked about is that this decision is going to be made by the lawyers and the accountants. That is who is going to decide. It's not the developers. In fact, when I talked to the Shanghai guys, we talked about the guy. They said, well, the maintenance is still going on. And they said, yeah, he's trying to save face. He doesn't want to admit that, they failed. And he's doing that on his own time. They're not even, and so that's why they're, trying to stop him, stop doing maintenance. But you got these guys that the developers still believe in the project. And that's what you would probably be seeing inside of Eve Echoes. And that's the people you'd be talking to, the guys that want the project to live. The big buzzsaw that both games ran into, I think, and this is harder to pin down, is the cultural differences between the East and the West. And so there are these things that, just don't fit well with our societies. And I think that both companies misjudged that market. And I don't think that we're over here sitting in the games going, well, this is terrible. But I think from their perspective, they have never been able to put their finger on the pulse for pleasing the Western markets. And there's just something there that they don't get or understand that is just different. And I think you saw last year when NetEase said, hey, we're opening up a Chinese only server. I think that was the admission that this is not going to work. And so we're going a different direction. So ultimately, what Second Galaxy is looking at is that the revenues are down. Now, bear in mind that we're still having 1,200 people in the system fighting, but that is just not enough revenue for the. What hurt us in particular is when the Ukraine war started. My alliance and a lot of the Western people, more than half of us are probably Russian. And when that happened, that really, people were like, well, I'm just not interested in playing that game. I've got other things to think about right now.
Yeah.
And so I had 200 people on grid, and then the next week we had 50.
Yeah, I get it.
And that really, I think, brought everything home. And I think that's when Second Galaxy said, okay, this is just not going to work financially. We've got this continual drain in terms of resources because they're still putting out new ships every week. They're still doing the weekly update, even though I guess the guy's not supposed to. They're still doing these things. They've got the hardware and the bandwidth. And, one of the things I explained to people, I said, look, they're still running 2 customer services departments. One for, and these are outsourced, so they probably get paid per game. And as long as Second Galaxy's running, they're paying the Western customer service and the Eastern customer service. I mean, all of these expenses, they're just saying, hey, the faster people leave and we can turn this thing off, the better we will be. And I don't think anybody could really argue with me about that in terms of Eve Echoes. You guys have had massive players that have left the game. They've got a thriving version of it in China. And again, that difference between East and West in China, from what I understand, the Eve Echoes China server is going gangbusters.
It's totally different. They are more used to paying for stuff in games. They don't put as much time. They put more money. That's kind of what I've heard, and that's kind of what everything kind of leans towards. So like the monetization that they have suits them better than for us.
Yeah.
And as soon as something comes here with money, we be like, dude, no more. But yeah, it's a market that unfortunately is something that comes into AAA games today and computer games, like all over. This is probably the best way to monetize a game, since all the phone games like have so much more money than any other company that makes like computer games.
As we're talking, I've got over 2,000 people in my community. I'm not talking about Second Galaxy. I'm talking about the people that we play with all the time. And so we're talking about possibly going back to EVE Online. Right now, I'm moving a carrier in EVE Online. I'm trying to sneak that thing through low sec. Hopefully you're going to delay this broadcast of the podcast, but trying to get that thing into position. I moved an Astra House yesterday, and we're probably going to try to go back and play. But the thing that I was going to say is that EVE Online is facing these same problems. I've been watching the EVE Online logins. And in the morning time, which is Chinese prime time for me, there's 25,000 people logged in. You get to U.S. prime time, there's 15,000 people logged in. I think that they're struggling very hard to get the Western market to stay engaged with EVE Online. You go back 8 months, you had 25,000 people logged in U.S. prime time. I don't know if you know it, but they just announced a big rate hike in EVE Online this week, and everybody is livid.
Flex prices and stuff, right?
Well, the subscription, the Omega's going up by $5 too.
Oh yeah. Of course, like Plex prices and the Omega is more expensive. Yeah, I know about it, but like
tied together.
I think Eve Online is so well structured. Yeah, I think that will survive. But like if we're talking about Eve Echoes, like if that happens, it happens. If it happens, like you're talking about starting Eve Online. Now people cannot start Eve Online. I would not start it. Where should we go for mobile gamers?
Oh, I totally agree, and that's a big thing, a big problem that we're all facing. But for a lot of our people, me included, we have Eve Online accounts from the past, and I'm not a Superman over there, but like, I mean, with my own account that I started, I am flying capital ships. So, but I don't actively play that game because I really don't like it that much.
Yeah.
We looked around at all the games that are out there. The Russian side of our contingent was saying, well, Star Atlas, we ought to look at Star Atlas when that comes out. And then we started researching that, and then people were like, oh, no, that looks like that's already in trouble.
That is already in trouble. You saw my video of it? Star Atlas, man, that could be awesome, but dude, yeah. Star like Citizen is easier, I think. Dude, yeah.
So I mean, what we're looking at in the landscape is there's nothing. And that's, and people, there was a big pushback when I suggested several options yesterday. And one of them was, we can all, gather up our people, gather up our old accounts and try to get something going again in EVE Online. And there was big pushback against doing that. And I was like, well, what are the options? EVE Online or nothing? Because that's that's kind of what I'm seeing out there, but there are not good choices.
No, it's not. I mean, they did release Clash of Stars on iOS. It's horrible. But I mean, what do you have? Like Astro Kings? I can't even remember like what kind of weird games there are on iOS that it's not even close to either Second Galaxy or Eve Echoes. So I mean, if these games are like moving away from the mobiles, then
mobile platform,
we are in a demand for a game, and anyone who makes a game that is close to either of those two will take everyone. And
I just don't see much on the horizon out there that would be able to do it or would be good. It could be, that one of these gets revived at some point, and gets a new coat of paint or gets some fixes. Or one of the ideas, one of the Russian guys, and he's a developer. I'm a developer. I worked in IT for a long time. I don't want to embarrass myself by saying how old I am, but he was like, well, maybe we can find one of these boutique indie development studios. And I said, well, I mean, it's a possibility. I said, let me tell you up front how the math is going to work on that. You're in this industry as well. I said, there's what Zilong is trying to do is quietly get out of any more liability on Second Galaxy and get this thing closed down. But the way you eliminate liability is somebody's got a big number with a bunch of zeros on it. And then they're basically indemnifying them. They're making it worth their while. I said, if you go to a development studio, that Zilong engine that powers Second Galaxy, they were trying to sell it. I said, I'm sure you could get that at a pretty reasonable price and start over building the game mechanics. But if you actually tried to acquire Second Galaxy, I think you're going to have to write them a check. And then you have to find a studio that is willing to believe in the project, that thinks it will be successful. And I think that's where the long road is. You're going to have to, knock on doors and really get people excited about it, because you're looking at a market that was always a niche market. You hear people talk about EVE Online, and they want to constantly think that EVE Online is the best of everything and the biggest game ever. When EVE Online came out, I was playing Asheron's Call, which was probably like 5 times the size of EVE Online. And then when that was closing down, we all went to Final Fantasy XI. And I remember they had like 15, 16 servers in Final Fantasy. I was on the Leviathan server, and that one server had 5 times as many as EVE Online. And if you look at the numbers now, EVE Online is so tiny. World of Warcraft, 4.5 million people. EVE Online, 25,000. This is a small market. And then when you see the game companies like NetEase, failing in that market, I think you're going to have a real tough time convincing people that they can be successful in that and that they should make an investment.
I will do all I can to get my hands on Elon Musk. He's a gamer. He got money. I mean, if he uses some of his millions to buy it, I can run it for him.
There you go. Tell him. But with that said, you know all these people that love these games and do not want to see it come to an end. And so people threw out these ideas, and the first one was the one that I was expecting all along. They're like, well, if they don't want it, why don't they just give it to the community and we'll run it?
Yeah.
And so I went through kind of a breakdown. Again, this is my forte, my field. I've already got servers that I own located in a big data center in the New York City area, and I'm paying for that space and I'm paying for that bandwidth and everything. And I said, look, I could take 2 of my servers, and these were set up as high density servers, high memory density, to be able to run tons and tons of virtual machines. I said, even me already being on the ground, if I was going to do this, I have already kind of thought it through, and I would have to spend $30,000-$40,000 in upgrades on memory right off the bat. But memory, even if I was going to use these 2 servers that I already have, not the other ones, but these 2 that were set up for the virtual machine hosting, and I said, but then the storage that I've got there is great for what we're doing. I said it is nowhere near adequate in terms of speed and latency, and the fiber switches that I would have to put in. I said on top of the memory expenditure, I'm thinking 100,000 minimum, maybe 120,000. So already being on the ground, I would have to come out of pocket for 150,000 or more just to get off. If you're going to run this thing on anything other than your mama server and you want more than 20 people playing it, then that's the real cost. So even if you threw it to the community and said, well, we're going to give it to us and we'll run it, there's still a huge barrier. And I said, that's just our cost to get us started. You still haven't solved their problem of the liability. And the other big problem here, I said, have you ever noticed every time you start these games, 2, 3, 4 other logos pop up that you've never thought about or ever heard of? I said they bought part of their technology, not outright, but they licensed it from these other companies. Those licenses are not transferable. You're going to have to go back and pay them. and at the time, the budgets they had when they were building these games, those license fees seemed like nothing. But when you're trying to start out, they're going to be significant. So it would be a huge barrier to try to take one of these. And, again, if you're Elon Musk, well, then that barrier is no problem at all. But for us, people think, put it in the community. Okay, well, you start sending me the money and I'll start getting the quotes.
Yeah, well, when something bad happens, you always think about any type of solution,
Sure.
Obviously, we're not gonna get our hands on Elon Musk. But but yeah,
you guys had the green light over there in Sweden, man. Pick up the bat phone.
Yeah, I thought so too. I have actually messaged him a couple of times just for fun, but you wouldn't believe it, I never got a reply. So
wow. that is horrible news. He replied to that
it's
guy
fine.
tracking his jet. Find a way to track his jet. You'll get to hear from Elon Musk right away.
Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. Dude, I don't even own a Tesla, so I can't speak to him yet. But anyway, well, it's interesting. I mean, your future. I would like to know more about it as soon as you know what you're gonna do with it. Are you gonna play Diablo Immortal, Diablo 4?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people, coming off of a big game like this, everybody wanted to stay together, and that was a big sentiment yesterday. people are like, well, you know, when things started sinking in, and we kind of dismissed the idea that we could keep it going on our own and things like that, then people were like, well, whatever we do, we got to stay together. And at the
Yeah.
same time, there were some other people that were like, oh, I don't want to put all that time into starting a whole new game. And, you know, and I understand that too, because I think these games kind of take a lot out of you. You know, you invest a lot into them. And when it comes to an end, you're like, oh, God, do I really want to make that big investment again? So I think that people are struggling a lot with that.
I always look at games as a journey. Now the destination, we always have a destination in our head, like we're gonna be this or that in whatever game we play. But it always ends. So if I think back to my time in, for example, World of Warcraft or whatever, nothing mattered really what I did. The only thing I have today is my memories, and I just wish that I played with more people back then, and got memories together with other people. So I think whatever happens on Eve Echoes and the future for Second Galaxy is, you will still have all these memories with all these good people, and if you guys start a new game, you will just make new memories.
I agree. What I said to absolutely, what I told people, and you know, because at the very beginning of the meeting, there was this kind of a depression, and I think that, you know, all of this is like the stages of grief. And so when people in Eve Echoes hear the Second Galaxy's closing, they're going to think, oh, well, then they'll come over here and then we can live. And, you know, that's the denial phase. No one from Second Galaxy is going to Eve Echoes. That was all clear. Everyone who'd ever moved over had already done it, and they weren't going anywhere. But I was dealing with, you know, trying to get everybody's mind around accepting the reality of our situation, you know, so we can start looking for solutions. And, you know, people were talking about, you know, the ships that they have, and you know, I said, look, I said, nobody's more invested in this game than me. You know, I've got an account that's maxed out. I've got 5 other accounts. I've got over 1 billion gala on one account. I've got hangars full of fancy ships. I said, none of that stuff means anything. I said, all of the assets that everybody right now is worried about losing, I said, that is not what you acquired this whole time. What you got was all of the great times that we had together fighting. I said, who remembers that night that we destroyed all those FGF capitals at that 47? And for the guys in Eve Echoes that were in Genesis at that time, they were right there with us. We did that together. And that was an incredible night. I remember, you know, when we knew that that enemy alliance was loading in, and we had the scouts on it, and people were like, oh my God, I've seen 20, 22, 24, 28 capitals. And, you know, and people were, and as soon as they had started moving towards the central control hub, I said, everybody align, we're going now. And there was this moment of panic, like, are we going to dive into that? And I was like, yes, go, go, go. And we all went in there, and then of course we lost 7 and killed like 21, 22, 23. I mean, some ridiculous number. I said, all those great battles that we had, that's what you took out of this game. That's what you paid for. And you're going to walk away with it. It's in your pocket. Don't worry. You're not losing anything.
That sounds amazing.